where she is just like a kid in a meth shop. Like, she is insane.
Cruz, it goes through this range of emotions of trying to barter and lie. He's like, it's in Paris. It's not Paris. He's like, no. And his fucking tears are streaming down his face. And he's watching the woman he loves die. And he fucking blows her brains out. And it just cuts.
What's your favorite scary movie? Swallow this.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got something very interesting. Lance Velchek is joining me, and we are going to get into some Tom Cruise goodness because a certain franchise released their latest entry lately, and we gotta talk about it because I don't know about you, Lance, but I am a big fan of the Mission Impossible series.
I would say it is one of the best modern action series of our lifetime in terms of, the later entries and stuff like that. So, yeah, dude, I love this stuff. I love Tom Cruise. I'm sorry. I don't give a shit what that guy does. Listen, somebody's wife disappears. It ain't my problem. I'm not in a cult. But to pretend he doesn't entertain, to ignore Born on the 4th of July, to ignore Rain Man, to ignore the Mission Impossible series, to ignore... even if it has some awkward ending parts, Vanilla Sky, dude, Magnolia. Don't sit here and tell me Tom Cruise is not an entertainer. That's my opening.
Edge of Tomorrow is the best sci-fi movie of the last 20 years. It is so good.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, I couldn't name everything. I had to throw in Rain Man. That was really big to me,
Oh yeah, Rain Man. Well, and
come on.
I went more for something just very recent because then it felt like I don't know, it's something that I enjoy. That movie in particular just gets lost a lot, and I think that it's because of the Tom Cruise-ness. And so I think that it's a good juxtaposition in terms of that. And then this series, because I think that this series really relies on the Tom Cruise-ness of it all, and that just knowing the crazy shit that he does. But definitely didn't like, do you have any experience with the TV show? Because I have none whatsoever.
It was my dad's era, so he loved it. I remember was it 95 or 6 was the first one came out. We went to Family Video and there was an entire wall of Mission Impossible. And because he loved the series and I don't know why we didn't see it in theaters, but we went and rented it. There was like 2 copies left. And back in the day, I don't know if you remember this, but you really couldn't tell at first if a copy was in because of how they laid the cover over the back VHS. And so it's like, we found one. And I remember it was a big deal for my dad because he grew up with that stuff. I did not. But, from what I hear, this is essentially, besides like the masks, the theme song and the general idea, it's its own entity, especially now it's not even the same.
Yeah. Isn't the John Voight character supposed to be like...
He's the main character. Yeah. He's like the Ethan Hunt of the series.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I almost always viewed, because I watched Mission Impossible very early on. I don't think I saw it in theaters, but I know I saw it on VHS right when it came out. And I was 6 or 7 at the time, so I didn't have that like love for Brian De Palma and the psychosexual side of his filmmaking. Didn't quite reach me as a child, but nowadays I went through a big phase with De Palma. So then getting into this series, I've always really loved the from 2 on, but the first film I always considered it like a weird entry. But then after getting into more of the De Palma-ness of it, I've really enjoyed it. But we're not getting into...
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk.
We're not getting into that movie quite yet, but... So there's something I wanted to do. There's a podcast I listen to. It's called With Gorley and Rust. And actually, I think that the James Bonding podcast also does this. When they do their rankings for different series, they do it where the last ranking, we'll go through our rankings worst to best. And so when the film gets mentioned second, that is when we'll finally discuss it. So if it only gets mentioned the one time, we won't discuss it until it gets brought up a second time. That way we're able to, do it in a little more of an interesting way rather than just move through the series chronologically, because that can get a little boring. Plus, I really like ranking, and I think this is an interesting way to rank.
Yeah, you're a ranking kind of guy. Remember, just a side note, I've never made a top 10 in my life in my movies because I actually don't like rankings. It makes me uncomfortable to because I think there's a lot of who you are as the time. I don't know. It's just time is a tricky thing. But I was actually very excited to do this because I love this series, and I was able to sit down and be like, okay, where do I put what? So I'm going to have you lead because it seems slightly confusing, but I will rock it out with you, buddy.
Don't worry, I've got this. If anyone else is confused, don't worry. You'll be totally. Yeah, you'll be up to speed by the end of this. So my number 7, because there are 7 movies in this franchise, we are not discussing the TV series. My number 7 would be John Woo's Mission Impossible 2. So what would your 7 be?
Without a doubt, Mission Impossible 2, which I saw in theaters, and I feel I could confidently say it is the worst one without a doubt.
So we both listed it. That means we get to discuss it right off the bat. So I also saw this in theaters, and unlike you, I enjoy the shit out of this movie because it very much reminds me of Con Air, Face Off, that style of film. And so I am all about it. However, I totally acknowledge that it is not a good movie. It is just very poorly done in a lot of ways. The weird editing tricks that John Woo does just doesn't work well for the Mission Impossible series. But it's still Tom Cruise. He's still running his ass off. I still enjoy that. And we still get the return of Ving Rhames, even though we get one of the weaker, like, other side characters with I don't even remember, the Australian pilot.
I forgot he existed until I rewatched it. And I was like, oh, this guy, and no fault to the actor, but just he didn't need to be, like how Benji kind of balances out Ving Rhames' character in the latest series. They're both tech guys, but they have like a different vibe. Mm-hmm. This guy was like, well, just have Ving Rhames. Like, I think it must have been like an Australian tax credit because they filmed in Australia. So I'm assuming that's basically all this was. We're like, we got to put this guy in, get a little money off the top.
Whenever I see him, I always call him Guy Ritchie because he looks so much like Guy Ritchie.
I could see that.
But I think that seeing him, and then for the next one in the series, what is his name even? Jonathan Rhys Davies or something. He kind of fits a similar role. It kind of shows of how much Simon Pegg's Benji really just completed the group, because before they're just trying out all these different people, which, I mean, same with the female love interest, because Thandie Newton, I mean, she's in this movie and then completely gone, and then they seem to have a little trouble figuring that part out until like part 5, I think.
Okay, so though I agree, I think what I like about Mission Impossible is that everyone up until the later ones kind of, I actually like them switching things out. Though I will agree, I think Simon Pegg's character was the right choice to find the team. But let me go over why I think 2 doesn't work. So I've always loved 1, and I liked 1 as a kid just because it was a cool like thriller. It was very like intense, real dramatic, a lot of talking, a lot of good stuff like this. But 2, because let's be honest, I always say that the Mission Impossible is the American James Bond. It's different, but it is our I think our cards on the table. Like, that's
only better.
You do James Bond, we'll do Mission Impossible, right? Mission Impossible 2, though, was the only time in the series they actually tried to do James Bond, because it's not about missions, it's not about espionage. It's about this handsome fucking guy with his long hair, just fucking, hey, how you doing? He's seducing women. He's cool. He's sexy. It's like, okay, awesome. Tom Cruise is a good looking guy. I'll never be even as close to good looking with $1 million. But they didn't focus on any of the cool stuff. It was just him. Like, they actually copy the scene from Goldeneye. Remember when Pierce Brosnan is sort of like flirting while driving aggressively against Anatov? Mm-hmm. And they're basically measuring dicks. She's in her car, he's in his car. They copy that in this with Newton, mm-hmm. Only it doesn't work because it's edited awkwardly. She flips out of the car. I'm like, why don't you wear your seatbelt? It's just, I almost feel they wanted him to be a hot spy who seduces women. It's like, dude, that's not this series. And I think this was the reason why it took, was it 6 or 7 years to make part 3? It's because they realized, okay, we can't copy Bond. It's not our thing. Tom Cruise has his own strengths, and I'm not saying he can't seduce, but that to me proved like that's not the series we want to do. We need to do a team action series about missions
Mhm.
and everything about it. And even is it Thaddeus? What's her name? I'm sorry.
Well, she's changed it.
I know, which is like, okay, what do I call her?
You can call her Thandie Newton, but it's her original name, and now the name she goes by is Thandiwe.
Okay, I'm going to call her Newton because I'm going to forget that.
Yeah.
So Miss Newton,
yeah,
I think was also miscast in this. I think her character right now, or the actress right now, would kick ass in the role. She was amazing in Westworld.
Mhm.
She almost seemed a little out of her depth. So she was almost not as confident as she should have been for being, because she was a Bond girl. She was just there to be sexy. She's seductress. They're in the bathtub and they kind of flirt, and everything about this just didn't work. I don't think John Woo, as much as I love him, I don't think he translates this as well to American movies as he should have. Though I love Face Off and I love Hard Target, but those are also kind of goofy movies, and I don't want a goofy Mission Impossible. And so all I'm going to say is that this didn't work, and everybody knew it, and they spent a long time trying to figure out how to do it better and fix it. This was a black sheep, and I think if you love it, and I know obviously you must have some nostalgia for it, or I probably have friends that love this shit, and I was like, so bad it's good. I can't deny that.
Yeah.
But being that every other one is actually a good movie, I do not like this. I get annoyed by it, and they had some shitty Metallica song. They also ruined a great Chris Cornell song. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that
They're running through the
Metallica
building,
song
it's
is
all blowing up.
amazing.
Yeah.
That music video
Yeah.
is so
Dorky
fucking
shit.
awesome.
No.
Oh, well, and I'll tell you too, because I know a little behind the scenes stuff. The only reason that it took so long for Mission Impossible 3 was scheduling issues and Tom Cruise wanting, because he was very picky with the director.
They went through a whole different cast and shit. Yeah.
They would have been like Mission Impossible 3 would have been released within like 2 or 3 years had it not been Cruise wanting
But
to.
script changes happened. I know there was a lot of like things changed. So I'm going to argue like, yes, it did. But I think by the time they got to 3, it was a better movie. I bet if they went straight into 3, it would have been worse off. I really do. I think time heals old wounds.
Well, and I think too, one aspect is that, I mean, Cruise was very much, his whole thing was wanting a collaborator that fit the franchise. And I think a lot of it was that I think he thought that De Palma and Woo did not fit what they were going for. So then the J.J. Abramsness, like he was adamant about J.J. Abrams to the point
he liked Alias, right? That was a big thing, yeah.
And to the point that they pushed production back 18 months
For Lost.
The only reason that Paramount agreed to it was because Steven Spielberg gave them War of the Worlds, which then Tom Cruise was starring in, because the head of Paramount was like, we don't have any other movies this summer. We need Mission Impossible 3. But Tom Cruise was like, we can't do it without J.J. Abrams, because that's what the series is going towards. So I think that aspect is cool, and it kind of shows that Cruise kind of recognized that John Woo just didn't fit.
Yeah, and he didn't. There's no, I mean, clearly, we're going to get in this with part 3, but part 2 was the thing where it didn't know what it wanted to be. There was no action set pieces at all. I mean, they go into the little lab.
Yeah, that's
all CGI. It's boring. It's been done.
But the rock climbing, that was the big.
Here's my area. I man, everybody loves that but me. But I'm like, who gives a shit? It's just him like hanging out. It's not like there's not a story beat to it. It's just he's on vacation. He's on holiday. That's all there was.
But it's
like, okay.
But it's the start of him doing crazy shit by like himself. I'm gonna
fight you on that later when we get to another entry.
Okay. Well, I feel like we've talked about 2 enough. So number 6 on the ranking for myself, I would put Mission Impossible 3. What's your number 6?
Fallout.
Oof.
I know. Everybody loves this. I mean, it's a good movie. I like Fallout. I don't love it like everybody else does. I feel like I'm probably like only 1 to 3 people.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to be talking about that one for a bit.
Yeah, I bet.
Number 5. This is another one I don't think we're going to talk about for a bit. Mission Impossible 1.
Okay, I have Rogue Nation.
Rogue Nation. Oh, see? Son of a gun. Well, then we got to go down. Number 4. because that's how this works. Well, we'll be getting even more so as this goes along. But I think we're finally going to start getting into the ones we're agreeing with. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 is my number 4.
So I'm not going to lie to you. My 3 and 4 are going to be switching. I don't know where I'm landing exactly, but as of right now, I'm putting Ghost Protocol as my number 4.
Holy crap!
It might switch. It might switch though, because I just saw Dead Reckoning, and so I that's like fresh in my mind. I had such a good time with that. So let's continue because you understand why.
Oh yeah, and I'll say right now that I think like Rogue Nation kind of didn't hit me hard to begin with. The Dead Reckoning, I think, is going to be one that really is a slow burn and really just gets better with age. But number 3 for me is Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. So we can talk Rogue Nation.
Okay, let's talk Rogue Nation.
So
I know you love it more, so I'm going to let you actually start off.
This is the beginning of the Christopher McQuarrie directed films, although he did do rewrites on Ghost Protocol. And so that's why Ghost Protocol still kind of feels like almost the beginning of a new series, of like a new franchise. But so Rogue Nation is McQuarrie the first time in the director's chair. And I think that one of the big advantages that this film has are the characters. All the characters are better than they were in past films. Unfortunately, I'd like Bing Rames was barely in the last one, showed up for one scene. Benji also has so much more to do here, where we get to see, because they have this through line of him really wanting a mask. And so it's like, oh, they finally get to do the mask bit. And the introduction of Ilsa Faust, Ilsa Faust is my favorite character in the entire franchise. I love how gray, like morally gray her character is, while essentially she just sees Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt as a morally good person, so then she like helps him out and is constantly at odds with like her own sense of right and wrong. But then she immediately, even if she thinks something's wrong, if Ethan says it's right, then she goes with it. She's like, she trusts his conscience more than her own. I like that. And her, again, it's all Ilsa Faust for me. And then also I am awful at knowing his name.
Oh man, okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, let's do it. I was waiting for this.
Sean Harris's Lane is my favorite bad guy in the whole series. I love how different he feels. I love how on top of things he is just as a character. But then I just love the whole idea of a rogue agent then setting up his own sleeper cell, because it's like, yeah, these guys have all of these tools in their arsenal and are able to essentially be ghosts. So then it's cool to see someone then take it to another extreme and go the bad way, because we always get to see people, go the good way in this. So I like that. But what about you?
McQuarrie's first. Oh, okay, so here's the deal. I actually had this as my second least favorite. I do not think it's a bad movie. I think it's a good movie. I watched it again last night after I got home from Dead Reckoning, because I watched these out of order. I don't know why. I was in back seeing my family, and I just like, hey, Dad, let's watch Fallout, because my dad never saw Fallout, so we watched Fallout, and then I watched 1, and so I'm a little out of order. I liked it a lot more this time. I here's the thing: great stunts. There is probably my favorite bike chase is Cruise on the highway chasing Rebecca Ferguson's character.
Yeah,
him and Benji I chase with the car and I don't know what, it's European streets. Who fucking knows what country?
Well, and there's that great moment where Cruise is like going around a corner and his knee hits the ground. And you can see him like acknowledge it. It's such a real moment. It clearly just you know what I mean? It's just a moment.
It's not scripted, because he basically bounces off, but they kept the clip because he finished the stunt.
And it's so real, and that's what the big advantage of the series has, is Cruise and his face.
And this introduces, if I'm correct, Alec Baldwin's character. And I like Baldwin. I just his vibe is cool. He plays a dickhead. I mean, of course, Mitch and Murray brought him from downtown to get people's asses in gears, and Glenn Gary Gun Ross. So I
Mhm.
just like that guy's vibe. Here's the thing. I hate Sean Harris's character Lane. I hate him. I do not. He's my least favorite villain in the entire fucking series. He has this little punchable Irish face. And I know he's not Irish, but he just has this fucking, I don't know. I want to be like, dude. And here's my thing about bad guys. I gotta be honest. There's two types I get behind. The big and dirty, the kind of guys that just fucking get in there, right? But if you're gonna be, I call a classic villain, which is like I'm not gonna do the dirty work and I have my henchmen do it. I need you to be a little cooler. He kind of came off on some sort of spectrum, and he has this voice. And I'm like, it's like, but even Mi Mujer was like, I don't like this guy. I want to punch him in the face. I'm like, he does have a punchable face. And my other complaint, and it's such a stupid thing, but like the Rogue Nation thing about the spies to me is like, well, that's Spectre. It's like I'm not. That's just not. I don't know. I'm like I almost don't want Cruise to be disavowed for the 100th time. I'm like, can we just have the Mission Impossible Force just be normal? I mean, this fucking guy keeps getting fired like every other movie, and it's not this movie's fault. But by this point, I was a little like, guys, can we not have them be Rogue? Can we just have them all work together? That being said, I still think it's a very good movie. Amazing action. The opening plane scene is badass. I think it balances the humor pretty well. And I love Ghost Protocol. I think my little complaint about that when we get to it is that I think it cut to humor a little too much. And I think Marvel's been doing that shit and kind of influencing the world. This was a little darker, and I like that. But at the very beginning, though, there's a great little scene when he gets on the plane and they got to check the bay door being open, and the European soldier looks at Cruise. He kind of gives him this look and pulls the parachute, and then it fucking hits right into the wick. And I was like, that's an opening.
Yes.
So, and Rebecca Ferguson's amazing. I absolutely love her. And she's not overpowered. I get really weird now because it's like, dude, every female character is taking down 200-pound guys. And not that it needs to be realistic, but I also don't want Michael Cera taking down The Rock. Like, it's the same shit for me. So in this, she was strong enough where she had a lot of jiu-jitsu moves, but wasn't taking down men 3 times her size just with a fist. And I appreciate that sort of like balance of action. And I think Rogue Nation, like most of them, are relatively grounded. I mean, they're obviously fantasy and they're fake, but they at least allude to it not being a world where like Tom Cruise gets shot, falls off like a 6-story building, gets up and brushes himself off. And I like that. Yeah. So I liked it more last night than I did when I first saw it in theaters. I think the story and the bad guy, they're just not my bag. I'll be honest. So.
And that's totally fine, because that's always the thing. And I should say too, my worst on this, I still rank Mission Impossible 2 as like a 6. Like that's still a positive series.
I'm gonna rate. I hate rating movies, but I'm gonna put Rogue Nation as a, I don't know, 7.5. I guess, is that fair?
Yeah, that's very fair. Mine's an 8. So.
Yeah, 7.5.
So then next up, because I mean, we'll be able to discuss all of these at this point. Oh, wait, no, yours, we need your number 4.
Oh, Ghost Protocol. And as I said before, these might switch. My number 3 right now is going to be Dead Reckoning. I got to be honest, man, it's been a long time since I've been to the theater. I don't like the theater anymore. People talk on their phones. It's just, I get annoyed and angry. Mm-hmm. This is old school, pure entertainment. I like this because it didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
I there could be an argument that there's little story here. And to be honest, Mission Impossible's, honestly, their stories are never amazing. They're kind of the same shit. I don't really care. No. Like, there's a rogue AI. I don't care. Awesome. Yeah. Good enough. But Cruise is on top of his game. I don't know the woman's name. She might be one of my favorite new female characters. I was like, I don't know who she is, but I'm digging her. And I loved that though she was a thief and she had her shit together, she wasn't all powerful. Like, she didn't know karate. She didn't know kung fu. She
couldn't drive.
No, exactly. And I was like, but that's how you write characters. Like, her strengths are essentially sleight of hand. She's smart. She's cunning. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have the physical strength. And I'd like that they balanced that out in this movie. I was very happy. I actually really dug her. And I was usually, as much as I love Rebecca Ferguson, I was expecting not to like this chick because I was like, oh, they're going to shoehorn another one in when we got the best one here. But I was like, okay, I dig her.
Yeah.
The train scene was amazing. The airport scene was charming. It was fun, and it was just talking and walking. But I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love how much too she like screws Cruise over multiple times in the film, and it's like how she does that and still comes across endearing is just fucking bravo to Haley Atwell, because that's tough. That is very tough.
And it shows Ethan Hunt's weakness, which is like he is, a genuinely good guy. Because really, half this movie could have been stopped if he just knocked her out. But he was like, generally, it's like, I want to help you. And, at the very end, he, spoilers, he says, I will care about your life over my own, or something like that.
Yes.
And that was like a soulful moment for me. It's like, that's the character. He is an all good USA American. And
Yep.
good. That's a cool thing to have. I have a good old boy. I love a good anti-hero. It's my favorite kind of character, but like, these are kind of rare, and Cruise does it well, dude. Everything about this, the bike scene, which I've seen 1,000 commercials for. I was actually worried. I was like, man, it's at the end of the movie when I realized where it's coming. I was like, I don't know if it's going to live up, because I've seen it. They fucking showed it before this movie, and little previews when you sit down, you're like eating popcorn shit.
Yep.
And it's still, I got a little flutter in my stomach. I was like, that is fucking movie making. And then he crashes through. Got to put a spoiler thing in this. Amazing.
Yeah.
Of course, this movie always, in every Mission Possible, the later ones especially, there's always that moment where like they should shoot the person and kill them, and then there's always like a fucking car that drives through or somebody. And I kind of like it because it's a part of the tropes of the series.
Mm-hmm.
This did it, probably my favorite. Crashing through it.
Yes.
Yes.
Everything about that was so well done, and the action in the film is just phenomenal. But I think that the thing that makes it so good, and that I think is a reason why I think that it'll go up in my ranking over the years, is that it makes a lot of character choices that Ethan makes in the rest of the series make so much sense. They show him how he got involved in the IMF. So then you're able to then see of like, oh, this is why Cruise always, when he sees, or Ethan, when he sees a bit of good in these people, that's why he's so adamant, because he sees himself in them. And it's same with the whole team. And so it then, I don't know, it made it where I think that I would have been slightly annoyed at essentially how much he then, I don't know, leans into how much he cares about the Haley Atwell character, where I would have been annoyed had they not connected that so well, because I would have been like, really? Another girl that he just like falls in love with, another one.
Sure.
Yeah. But they play off of that and do really, really well, especially with, and spoilers, but them killing off Ilsa.
I've noticed a lot of people online are really angry about that.
She's the best character.
Yeah, but I just hate people that hold dear shit. There's been a lot of like, there's what's that phrase? Something about a fridging a
Nuking
girl,
the fridge,
or something. No, it's a word like you kill a girl so that the male protagonist has like a goal.
Yeah.
And I just, it's one of those things where it's like, I think people are really quick. We're in a fucking generation now where people are so quick to just want to have a problem with something where I'm like, she had got 3 movies of kicking ass. Like, we could kill her off because people need to die. And I don't give a shit if it's for Cruise's character, Ethan Hunt, to like need revenge, because that's how movies work. And if you want to do the reverse, I would be down for it. Kill fucking some hot dude so Rebecca Ferguson could go on a killing spree. I wouldn't be like, well, the guy needs to be, and I know, who gives a shit? Like, give him a reason. I don't care. Like, kill his dog. Stub his toe. Take his fucking wallet. I do not care. Like, it sucks that she's dead, but these are not the kind of movies where, I need the same 8 people to be forever. I don't. I'm okay with that. Just because it's an ongoing. Cruise is 60. We've had 7 movies. Mm-hmm. You need some stakes. Let's be honest. I'd rather have her die than Benji, because Benji's just a good person. He's not murdered anybody. Like that would hurt more. Or Ving Rhames, if you want to like really get on people's skin. But I prefer those people to live over her, honestly, and I'd love her. But whatever. It's part of the movies, man.
Yeah.
Kill somebody else.
It was her character arc. It was very similar because people were very upset about Dewey getting killed in Scream 5, where it's just like, what? His character arc was over. What the fuck? Do you want him to just show up and sit? What? Like, his death means so much in the, like, is the effect and the impact means so much, where then if he hadn't died, what does he do in 6? Why do we care about any of this shit going on? You can like a character and be upset that they're dying, but that can still be the right decision.
Yeah, people are like, I hope they reverse it in part 2. I'm like, please don't. You just don't. And also the new girl was really cool. She's really good. And I'm not saying it's gonna replace her, but like we're fine. Ferguson kicked ass. She had a good run.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this series. And how many do we have left? Honestly, I mean, Cruz is 60 now, man. Like we don't have a ton. And these don't pop out every other year.
He said he wants to make him into his 80s.
Yeah, he says that. I really don't want that though, because if we get Indiana Jones, where it's like, dude, I mean, he's gonna die in screen anyway one day. That's just how this is gonna end.
Yeah,
and, I'll salute him.
Yeah,
but
probably in space.
But I love the reckoning, the opening with Kittredge, and also the second I saw Carrie Elways, I was like, one, awesome. Two, absolute villain, because Carrie Elways is in his villain career right now.
Yeah.
But
he's incapable of being a good guy anymore.
I know, well, because he's aged in a way where his eyebrows are thinner, so he just looks like a bad guy. But still a great opening. 100%. I walked out thinking, this is why Cruz is considered the last Hollywood star. This is why.
Well, and I should say too, because we haven't talked about, I really liked the bad guy in it, the Asai Miraz. I can't think of what his name is in the actual film, but the main guy that Cruz is like, this fucking guy. I enjoyed him, but I really wish we had seen the original casting for it, which was Nicholas Hoult. Was the original casting, which then says to me that would have changed a lot, because he would not have been connected with like Ethan's past, because he's so young. But like, I really would be interested in knowing, like, seeing that role with Nicholas Hoult in it, because I don't know. I went into this being like really just disappointed in the fact that Asai Miraz was in cast, but he won me over almost immediately. He had great screen presence, and he's from the show Caprica, which is a Battlestar Galactica spinoff. So as soon as I saw him, I was like, yeah.
I've seen him before. I think he was fine. You know who I liked more? I want to pull it up because I don't know names very well.
Palm?
Of course I don't know. Yeah, Palm
Clementieff. Paris, yes. Best bad guy of the series.
Yeah, one of the best henchmen. And I love that they essentially saved her, like that they basically go, she's still breathing, which is code for next movie.
Yep.
Because she had almost no lines, but her facial expressions and her emoting, I was like her in the basically a tank. It's not a tank, but it's like an armored truck in the chase scene in Rome.
Yes, where she is just like a kid in a meth shop. Like, she is insane. Yes, she's the best. And her fight with Cruz in the very narrow alley. Oh, you could just feel it. You could feel it. Every hit, every movement, and
that's a good example. Another one where like I felt she wasn't overpowered. Neither was Cruz. They both had their. I would say the fight went both ways, and it always felt at least grounded in whatever that sense means in the series. Because she gets a couple good hits in, and he blocks. He takes her head and he just whacks against the wall. And I was like, okay, that would put her down.
Yeah.
And I like that he doesn't like, well, I actually would have killed her myself, but I'm the kind of guy that I'm not Ethan Hunt, and I'm here to win.
Yeah.
But then he smashes a buffer and she basically knows, like, okay, he's a fair man, and that comes through at the end. And I was like, that is how you do it.
Yep. I'm wondering too, how much was the breathing line? Was that a note? Was that something that they added in after that? Like, after just seeing in the edit of like, holy shit, she is awesome. We can't get rid of her too soon.
I didn't think about that when in the theater, but it has to be, because it actually is awkward, because they make it as she's dead. Like, they have a goodbye in a way. Like, he basically in a way thanks her for saving his life, and then it's done. And then some guy's like, she's still breathing. Yeah. Which, speaking of those two cops, I liked a lot. The one guy who was in Boardwalk Empire, he's been a lot of stuff. He was, I think, a preacher, and he was a tent preacher and True Detective. I love that guy. He's always good. And this, we starts like grabbing faces and stuff. He keeps thinking there's a mask. I was like, I'm glad they're acknowledging that, because at this point in the series, we know that masks exist and they're frequently used. So I love his first reaction is always grab somebody's face. I was like,
yeah. There was stuff with his character. Actually, he plays a very similar role in the Fast and Furious franchise. So I was I was so confused when he came up, because I was like mixing the two together, where I'm like, wait a minute, hasn't he already done this?
So he just plays like a grumpy asshole?
Yeah, I guess so. Grumpy cop.
Plays it well.
Yeah, does it fantastic. Okay, well, I mean, like we talked a lot about Dead Reckoning just because that's like the most recent
one,
movie, and haven't really gotten to discuss that one at all. But okay, so that was your number 3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my number 2 is Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol. So that means we can discuss it.
Yeah,
I think all these final rankings we're going to be discussing because that'll be the last ranking for them. But Ghost Protocol, I'm a huge. This is a weird segue, but I'm a huge Iron Giant fan, the animated film, and then I'm also a big fan of The Incredibles, the first one, and so Brad Bird, I just always I love his aesthetic and his style, and especially how he tells a story. I feel like there's no fat in any of his films. It's always, well, in Incredibles 2, there's fat, but for the most part, a lot of his films, there's just no fat. And this in particular, I think is the best edited of the series. And I will say, with the caveat of, I think that the characters aren't quite as good as they become in Rogue Nation, but I think that's just natural character progression. So I would, if anything, it just kind of gives the writers a place to grow. But the biggest aspect of Ghost Protocol that I think just blows so many of the other films away is the tower. That tower is unreal. I still remember seeing it in theaters, and you could practically, when he leans out and you hear the wind of this being out that far, it is, you can feel it. You can feel that moment, and it's so good. And there's just a lot in that movie. I think that the villain is slightly weak, but it still works. It still is entertaining. I like the stakes. I like the Kremlin gets fucking blown up in this.
The opening is amazing. I like that. I like it because they couldn't use masks. That's one of those. That's a good estimate. I assume they're just talking. And one of my favorite things is, again, I actually a lot of times like the non-action scenes in the Mission Impossible series is they got the cool screen, which they look, stop, they move, stop, and it's like all it is. And they're doing the little sound for the little drips. That's all it is. It's confusing a guard for 20 minutes, but that is a great tension build scene. It's interesting. It's cool. Everything about it. That's a good example of why Ghost Protocol is such a good damn movie. Yeah. It's because when it's not doing crazy shit like the Burj Khalifa or driving a fucking BMW off of a little car elevator, they're just getting down a hallway. And I think that's one of my favorite scenes.
And the humor in that, the humor in that scene where Benji like goes up and is in the actually in the camera. That's because, again, I agree with your whole the marvelization of films where they're
undercutting tension with jokes.
They're adding, because I think there's absolutely a way to do that, but I think that it can get out of control, and I think that this in particular is a great example of how you do it and do it well, where it then doesn't break the grounded nature of the scene itself. It's just a fun additional moment that works in the context of the scene.
It's probably and I hate saying this because people are going to take this the wrong way. It's probably the lightest entry, at least the funniest entry, but it's in no way a light or fun entry. It's a serious movie, but this I think has the most humor and it's balanced perfectly. I don't think this would have been handled if it wasn't Brad Bird, honestly, because I could see any other director just fucking this up. Yeah, because I don't like humor movies a lot. I actually hate undercutting tension with humor, but this entire movie, I was like, I feel like we're never sacrificing tension for humor. It always fits naturally. It's like, it's almost them being like, oh, this is Jesus. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
One moment I just thought of too is the intro with the prison break, where then it's a moment where it's a moment of the prison feed, where then Cruz can't talk to Benji, but he just is looking at him and he's like,
open the door.
It is, and like Benji's like acting like he's talking to him, where he's like, no, I can't do it. Ethan, I can't. I can't. It's like,
they can't understand each other.
Yeah, that moment is just, there's good moments like that, which, as much as I was talking about Christopher McQuarrie and being such a great director, I think it's the action that he handles so well, where moments like this, I don't think that Ghost Protocol would have been as good of a movie with McQuarrie directing, because I think that what you were saying with the lighter moments, I think that wouldn't have been there, wouldn't have existed. It would have been just a darker film, and which would have made it less fun, because it's a fun. I think that 4 is the most summer blockbuster of the series.
100% agree.
Good. I should say good summer blockbuster, because obviously 2 is very summer blockbustery.
Yeah, but I think you and me, when we're using that term, is like when done right, like a true popcorn flick. And the Tower is one of the best scenes ever filmed. I still, when I watch it on my TV, as I saw it in IMAX, and when I recently watched it again, I still got that feeling. And I like how he handles it, because again, if it was super dark, it would have been just as good. But it's almost like it's just them having to get up, and just get a drive. And I like that. It's not, I got to get to save an assassination or the girl's going to be killed. It's just so they could then get back down and finish the fucking mission. It's almost just like it's a fetch quest. Yeah. It's not even, it's just, I got to get this so we could actually do the real thing. And I think that's so cool, because it should be setting up for the final thing, but it's, it's obviously in the second act. Yeah. But but then the movie happens. Then they go and they make the trade and they lose a guy. And I was like, I just love that that's where it is. I think it's so unique and cool.
Well, and also too, I didn't even really think about this until just now, is that the main bad guy, who is played by Mikhail Nyqvist, he unfortunately passed away a few years ago, but Hendrix is his name. And I think one of the very cool aspects of Hendrix is that he is doing so much of, like, he's in the weeds. He's there at the Kremlin. He's the one. He's not sending off henchmen. Even the one scene with the tower negotiation, we think it's his henchmen, but no, it turns out it's him in a mask. Which, like, that's so,
and he's willing
to
die for the cause.
Yes.
Like, I love that he isn't defeated. He kills himself knowing that he's going to win, and it's Ethan having to fucking basically nearly kill himself to save it. But I thought that was a cool thing. He just kind of jumps off. It's like, that's fun, man. I'm digging that. That's a cool little way.
Big fan of that one. But yeah, you're number 2.
Oh, easy. Mission Impossible 3. I absolutely love this movie. It is one of my favorites. I'm gonna just jump in, because I think I've realized I've read a lot of rankings, and this is never high on anybody's list, and I think everybody's wrong. But I think this was a course correction the series needed, and I think this actually implemented all the ideas that number 4 would then, I would say, blossom. So though 4 is the beginning, I think, of the Mission Impossible series we know, I think it actually started, and the seeds were planted in 3. We had a somewhat realistic scene where he's like falling down the building. Actually happened. It's not framed in a way where they don't like. It's not. This series is very low key. This entry is very low key. And so if that shit was shot number 4, they would have had this wide thing of him falling down. But so they have like one big stunt, right? They have him essentially with his team together. Like, we introduce Benji, so we have him in it. Him and Ving Rhames have this sort of thing. This is the first one where, like, he's kind of disavowed. It's the start of that kind of stuff. It breaks in, I think, what the franchise will be going for going forward. It leans more into the action, way over. As much as there's action number 2, I think this is the action the series kind of is known for. The bridge scene where the explosion throws him to the car. He has the gun, he's shooting the helicopter. There's a lot of stuff that I think is muted in this, but is then used to greater effect in the later series. So I think this is the first one that starts it, because really 2 doesn't make any sense out of the series. So take out 2, we have 1, and then 3, which is like I said, the beginning. The best villain of all time, Philip Seymour Hoffman, is amazing. I think that opening scene is still the best thing they've ever done, where it's not a cool chase, it's not a stunt. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman with a wife to his gun to his wife's head. And he's counting down, and Cruise. It goes through this range of emotions of trying to barter and lie. He's like, it's in Paris. It's not Paris. He's like, no. And his fucking tears are streaming down his face, and he's watching the woman he loves die, and he fucking blows her brains out, and it just cuts and the wick. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better, and I love how he plays it. Out of every fucking villain, even like we got the punchable face. He's like, Mr. Hunt, I will see you. It's like, no. Philip Seymour Hoffman seems annoyed that he's talking to Hunt the entire time. He's bothered. He's like, motherfucker, I have things to do. Why are we talking to your ass? He's like, the rabbit's foot. Where is it? Oh, so you're gonna help me out, like help me on the plane, It's like I'm gonna hurt some of you love.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure that he's just so calm and collected. I just love it. Though I'm gonna throw out a little flaw. I don't like that he fights Hunt at the end because obviously
it does not work in any way.
No, because he shouldn't have any. Like it would have been a 1 second fight with fucking Cruz knocking him out. Though I am glad that they murder him. I'm happy for that because this series tends to be a little like nice on the bad guys. At least the later ones they're like they're putting them away, kind of James Bond style. But I kind of like. He takes his head off. Here's, I think, what makes this interesting. It's a License to Kill the series where it's personal, it's revenge driven. Hunt is angry, he's depressed. There is a lot of I would say grittiness to this that I could see people not loving. I liked it because I think it's a good juxtaposition to part 2. Mm-hmm. I think this is a good way to go. It's all personal. It's his wife. It's really not about a lot, mission wise, except for him to save his wife, and so the mission kind of goes about that.
Who I think is great. Like Michelle Monaghan, she's so good.
Well, and also gives him something to care about. It gives him like an actual love interest that like makes sense. It's his wife. He's retired. This is pulling a Skyfall where we start off and it's like, I'm taking the time off. Like, okay, well, part 2, you're jumping off motorcycles. Fair enough.
Yeah, and also believable in that they set her up as essentially Ethan's like the love of his life, and they, despite the fact that there's 4 more movies after this, then he's not with her. They really lean into that, and it's like, yeah, I really do think that Julia was the love of his life. That then he realized that he couldn't give her, and that he couldn't give her a reasonable life while he is doing what he's doing. So
she'll always be in danger. Part 3, though, hold on, also has the best talking moments outside of 1. Which is, there's a couple scenes I love. Besides the Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise, there's one where after the mission goes wrong at the very beginning and they're in the room with Lawrence Fishburne, which they should have kept him. I have no idea why they didn't bring him back. Yeah, I think he's my favorite outside of Baldwin. But I
like Angela Bassett.
Yeah, see, Fishburne's better. Fishburne's way better. Because he has lines like this. I love Billy Crudup, even though, I could tell he was a bad guy, but I like him, so I don't give a shit. He goes, excuse me, sir, as the director, he goes, I wrote it down. Excuse me. Did you just throw a title at me, Mr. Musgrave? Or he goes, chocolate makes you fat, but he's throwing these lines out and he just doesn't give a shit. And they're just having these little one-on-one battles. I love it. The only complaint I have, and I think it's not the fault of the movie, is this was coming outside the end times of the 2000s action, which is a lot of slow-mo, a lot of Matrix infused action, which is awesome for the time, but it comes off kind of corny. And so there's the shaky cam, which is very big at the moment. There was like some of the residue of the slow motion. She throws the gun, she grabs it, does like a 180 around her. Yeah. There is stuff that I think it's oversaturated like a motherfucker. It's just, there is a lot of mid 2000s in this. And I don't hate it, but I will say there's somebody who's sitting here completely loving this movie that rewatching, like, oh, I didn't realize that I could tell the era this was made in. I also will say I don't give a shit if you're going to bring up lens flares. I love lens flares. I love Die Hard. I don't care that Abrams does it. It's fine. But oversaturation, shaky cams, and some slow-mo, I think was a little corny at times. So
yeah, I think for me, the reason, so the big shifts on my rankings list because once I watched Dead Reckoning, I then went home and watched the rest of the series. And the big shifts were Mission Impossible 1 and then Mission Impossible 3, where this viewing, it just didn't really sit with me very well. It was fine. It was, I agree with all of the Philip Seymour Hoffman stuff. One moment you didn't mention that is just so good when Ethan has Philip Seymour Hoffman's character over the outside. He's like hanging him out of the plane.
Yeah, it's torture him. Yeah.
And he like brings him back in, and Philip Seymour Hoffman's character essentially just says,
"What I'm selling and who I'm selling to is the last thing you should be concerned about, Ethan."
It's like, now he knows who you are, and now you are fucked.
He's so cool, though. Even when Ethan's shooting him in the helicopter, he just looks annoyed. He's not, he's like stone faced. I just like that. I think he played the villain in a way that I think would have came off bad if any other person did that. Because he's emotionless. He doesn't seem very into it. It's just very like I said, very like, why am I wasting my time with you? I have things to do. I just think that's a cool angle.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's so much about this movie that I like, but then the negatives where then I compare it to the other films, I'm like, I don't. So in particular, the characters that then just are introduced in this film that are then never hear from again. We got Maggie Q.
I like Maggie Q. No,
same. I do really like her. Why the fuck does she not return to the series ever? Like,
Bad
bring
Robot
her back.
produces all of them, so I don't know. They even make a Lost reference in Rogue Nation because he has to go to slot 108 to put the thing in. So clearly, Abrams is put money in. I have no idea why she's not back. I get why the guy isn't, but I don't get why she's not.
Yeah, the Jonathan Rhys Meyers. That's another one where I'm like, why?
He's little. Yeah.
Why is he just like in and out? It's like, well, that's a fuck up for casting then. If you'd like didn't I don't know, he just comes and goes. He doesn't really, I don't know, have any effect, which again, they also added Benji this movie. So that's a huge plus. But then also Lindsay Ferris, the Carrie Russell character, where it's just like, I just feel like they're introducing these people who all feel very just similar. And this one just, no one has much identity, which bugs me, where like the people that do have identity, they're great. But then I don't know, I couldn't get into them. And the reason that this dropped for me was the Rome scene. I think there are so many corny moments in the Rome scene, like him walking in with the Cardinals outfit or like the priest's outfit.
Oh, Kyle, I like it because Clemson Wall puts a picture.
Yeah, everything about that, especially compared to all of the other scenes in the series, they're doing something similar. Like it doesn't connect with me. It feels, it's the most that the series felt like Fast and Furious for me. Where it's just like, this is. Like,
I disagree, man. Pascal, you threw it out fast, but now we're throwing punches, huh? This was a nice argument until now, huh?
Hey, I like the Fast and Furious series, but there were moments where I'm like, well, and to be fair, there were moments in Dead Reckoning too, where I'm like, ooh, this reminds me of the latest Fast and Furious film. But that's because they literally filmed in the same city and have very similar shots.
I get what you're saying. I guess I guess all I'm going to lead off with is that I like how low key this was, and as much as I love how the series gets big, my favorite moments actually tend to be more low key, which is why when we get to number one, we're going to have a big disagreement.
Oh yeah, this is going to be interesting because both of our ones are very all over the place. So my number one is Mission Impossible Fallout, and I love this movie so much. The first time I watched it, I immediately rewatched it because for some reason, I did not see this in theaters. I didn't realize until actually earlier today. I thought I had seen all but one in theaters. Some reason I skipped out on Fallout. I think it was just during a period of time where I wasn't going to the theater because just wasn't. And so this one is something that how it connects with the rest of the franchise and provides such interesting moments, like Michelle Monaghan's character coming back and finally like completing her arc. I really love the nuclear element. Nuclear stuff is it's always been terrifying for me. And I love like the fake out scene is one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise.
Oh, in the jail cell?
Where they make the guy think.
Oh, at the beginning.
Where they make
Wolf Blitzer, yes.
They make him think that that there's been a massive terrorist attack and 3 cities have been nuked. I love that, and the reveal. The Mission Impossible series just does reveals so well, and how they're edited, how they do the right music stings at the right moments, and there's so much with that. That scene just stood out to me, but then the whole Henry Cavill element, anything involving his character, I think is so unbelievably good. Like the Halo jump, while I wish that it had a little less CGI, because it's like, yes, Cruise actually did it, but when you see the actual footage, it's like they had to do so much like CGI to then make it.
Yeah, the one take is really like what's impressive when they're in the air. I mean, maybe it's real, but like there's a lot he has to do. So I just assume.
I mean, it's all real. Like everything, all like him in the air, it's all real. But like the sky behind him, you know what I mean? So they're having to replace all of this stuff where it's like, well, I mean, yeah, this is a very impressive stunt, but I'm more impressed seeing the behind the scenes footage where it's not the darkened sky, and because it's not even, they don't do it at night. It's like a blue sky, like during when they actually filmed it. So then they had to, again, just CGI the background for it all. So then it's like, well, then what's really the point of doing the stunt for real? But that's, again, minor complaint. And then and you had mentioned earlier of how there's moments that feel like they just straight up take out of like the or take out of James Bond, and the bathroom fight feels like a little bit of that Casino Royale fight.
Yes.
But mostly it feels like that True Lies fight with Arnold in the bathroom.
Oh shit! Oh my god, I didn't think about that.
Yeah, but I think it just works so well because Cavill is just such a fucking monster. Like, he is just, he is the most intimidating villain in this series outside of Philip Seymour Hoffman and his, just because of those monologues. And I feel like he could just look at me and be like, "I've drained your bank account." I'm like, my $40.
That's all I have.
I don't know. I just love this movie so much, and I think that it's one of the few films that every time I watch it, I like it more and more. But let me know. Let's see. Why do you rank it 6?
I thought some of the stuff was good. I liked Cavill a lot when he wasn't talking. I think every line he had was kind of corny. I'm annoyed that he has an American accent. It's like, dude, just have the English accent. Like, who fucking cares? I think it'd be better. I don't know. For some reason, it came off kind of weird. I was annoyed that he was the bad guy, because it's like, dude, he was so clearly the bad guy. I was like, hopefully he's the good guy. Hopefully, like, I want the twist to be he's actually good, and not a part of the syndicate. But I think I actually liked him a lot as a henchman when he was just kicking ass. I think the bathroom scene, even if it was a copy, was amazing. That kind of shit's cool. I dug that. And this is no fault of the movie. It might change my list. I really, at this point, I get annoyed when things are filmed in France, because I think maybe the last 3 John Wicks were in France. I'm just like, okay, I've seen enough of fucking France. I don't care. I don't find that beautiful. I find it actually very bland. Go somewhere a little unique. Go to fucking Slovakia. How about that? There's some grit there. Like, everything's pretty. So I didn't like the blonde chick either. I didn't like her whole thing.
Oh, Vanessa Kirby.
I mean, she was the actress is fine. I'm just saying the character. I was like,
the whole sexual side of her, I love it. It almost felt like the 90s coming back.
It did really do it for me. The nuclear stuff at the end, I dug. I love that for some reason Wes Bentley's just a normal husband. I thought that was a funny little twist, and Cruz comes to his doctor. I like that. But again, I think the big thing is it brought back the villain, which I fucking cannot stand. And this time he's like more, he's more doomsday-ish. He's like, and when the world ends, we'll sit here and hold hands. And I was like, just fucking kill him. I didn't like that old scruggy motherfucker put up a fight against Benji and Ferguson. I got to be honest. It's like, dude, he's not a fighter. I could kill him with my hands, and I'm
dude. But he's a former IMF agent. They set him up to be like, he's clearly got some skills.
Yeah, but he's been in jail. He hasn't been doing any push-ups. If he came out buffer, I'd be okay. Although I will say the one scene that I really loved in this is when they go over how they're going to escape him or how they're going to break him out. And there's like, they're basically just, it's like Sicario. They're just murdering everybody. And that Cruz figures out to just drive him right into the bay, and they take him out. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Overall, I don't dislike it. I did think killing Baldwin was corny. I did, but every entry has a corny moment, so I'm not going to hold it against it. Again, it's low on my list, but I would still probably say it's a 7. So my bottom is pretty high.
No, them getting rid of Baldwin is such a mistake.
I bet it's okay, but it's like, we have enough tough women. I'd rather have the tough woman be in the action roles anyway. I don't know. I'd rather her actually be a part of the action. How about this? She's no Judi Dench. It's no M, and I almost feel like we're making her M. So it's like, I'd rather have Bassett kicking some ass personally.
Did you notice too? This is on Dead Reckoning, but did you notice too? She's in her picture is on the wall.
In the beginning, where everybody has like a line. When
they do the I don't know, the thing where Carrie Elways is in the meeting. All those people.
Everybody has a line and they're going in a circle. Yeah,
she was supposed to be in that scene, but COVID travel.
This is the one that Cruz was screaming on the set. That's just, I mean,
this was filmed over like 2.5 years, 3. This had like a crazy long filming schedule
it was
because
pushed
of
back as well,
COVID.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were legitimately filming during like the midst of COVID, and like so like this has been. I'm sure some of these actors filmed scenes of this like 3 years ago that they're like, oh, cool, I finally get to see this. We didn't even talk about the helicopter fight at the end. That thing is badass.
And Cruise was actually driving the helicopter. That was actually when he was trying to knock him down. Okay, yeah.
And the whole him climbing up and then he like falls back down.
Yeah. That was the big stunt of this movie, right?
Yeah,
him doing it all
himself.
Yeah, and which is great. Yeah, dude, it's a solid movie. It's just I hate the bad guy and I don't like the setting, so I get a little. I'm a little like, I own it and I give it a 7. I want to stress that out because I know I'm coming off like a douche.
Yeah, I own the whole series. I have that 4K collection. It's very, very nice. But then I also owned Fallout separately on Steelbook because I'm such a Fallout fan.
I bought the Steelbook when it came out. You know,
it's a good one. Okay, you're number 1.
Easy, Mission Impossible, hands down. So when I was a kid, I loved it for the reasons I think you didn't. It's because this is essentially a espionage caper that's sort of grounded in a thriller. I like that there's no guns, there's no fighting, it's all fucking talking. I like when Max is like,
there's a lot.
It's not looking good for you, Mr. Hunt. And then he's like, well, it's getting hotter. Could just be warming up. He goes, yeah, it's warming up. Maybe they'll come down the stairs. Maybe they'll come. And it's this cat and mouse. The whole scene, dude, with him and Kittredge. I loved this as a kid, but as I got older, I realized like that's called filmmaking. When it's the violins and it just keeps getting closer and closer and Dutch angles. And I love how the actor plays Kittredge because this should be in that exact scene. Like that should be a strict Baldwin. Should be Mr. Hunt. We're bringing you in. We found out that your parents' farm got this, and you're coming with us. But he goes in this smug sort of douchebag way. Why don't we quietly get out of here and onto a plane, Mr. Hunt? Yeah, there's a mole and you're the only one alive. He's like fucking with them. And Cruise is getting this intense look and it's just getting closer and closer. And the music's playing, the violin's going, and he snaps the gum. And this awesome fucking shot where it's from the point of view of Cruise, though it's on a POV shot, it's like over his shoulder. You see him throw the gum, splashes water in Cruise's face, and it hits the tank, and you see the waiter, which dies because they pull that fucker outside the store. So I always like that. Like they don't really acknowledge it, but it's like he's dead. For a series where he's not murdering bad guys in the end, I like that he's just killing random agents and he doesn't give a shit. That's my Ethan Hawke. But I like how it's filmed. I like there's a lot of cool Dutch angles. I like that there's a lot of like interesting lighting, especially in Prague with like the blue coming off of the I'm assuming it's a river, and then you have the fog. I don't know, man. Everything about this it's a talking movie, and I love talking movies, and I understand why it cannot be this forever. I think it grows in a fine direction, but we'll never beat these conversations. No, they have seen you. And I was like, Cruise, look at you, you son of a bitch. You're doing it. And so it's I would say it's nostalgia, but I've watched it a bunch of times since, and I think I love it more and more as I get older because it's just so different. It's so calm. And I love De Palma, though De Palma's kind of a douchebag because I remember he actually talked shit about 3, where he's like, I actually made a real movie and now they're just having TV guys. It's like, dude, I know Abrams a punching bag now, but like, he could fucking direct. So let's take it down a notch, my friend. But again, why I like this is because it's the opposite.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the coolest things, and this isn't something that I realized until like not this last viewing, but the viewing before, is that I love how they still utilize the masks aspect in this, but it's Cruise under a mask. So it's like where it's like it's not them doing the different actor and then they do a reveal. No. This is Cruise under the makeup trying to act like a different person. So
that's cool.
I loved that. And same with like, because they have him, they do it like later on in the movie where they literally have Cruise playing some like, what is it? Some politician that's on the TV.
The senator.
That then the only reason he's playing it is so that then when they mask him up, like that, then he can be like masked later.
It's Cruise on the TV playing the guy. Yeah.
Even though it's like not technically like, in that world, that's not Ethan Hunt. That's the guy. So it's like that element where I'm like, I would love for them to do that again. I want to see that.
Technology, but do you remember? I mean, this is now a little nostalgia baiting, but at that beginning scene when they take off the mask, I will never forget being a kid and being like, "What the fuck?" Because it still doesn't look terrible.
It looks fantastic. It's better than any of the reveals in any of the other films because of the fact that it's real.
But the effect, though, I mean, at the very beginning, I'm talking when the beautiful woman, I can't think of her name. She's gorgeous. I have such crush on her skin. But I'm saying that, like, I remember when that happened, and that being one of those watershed moments of like, we're in a different era of movies.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my god, and it's so simple. They just get a guy, because essentially what they did in Fallout is they remade that. Because it's a fake room, they want this guy to sort of admit his fault,
Mm-hmm.
and the second they admit it, they fucking drug him. The walls come down, and he pulls off the mask, wakes up the girl. And I was like,
much more advanced version of that.
Exactly, because it's so low key. It's like the whole movie's low key. I mean, they don't shoot anybody at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, the set piece is the train, and that's it. But that's just talking. That's it. That's all the movie is. Sure. Well, they also kill all the I mean, how cool is that though? Especially at our age. Gordon Bombay is fucking is the Benji
traumatized me
really?
as a kid.
That thing's
traumatized. Dude, I was like 5 years old when I saw this. So like that was and
I was a little bit older than you, I guess that's
and
why.
I knew him as Gordon Bombay.
Yeah.
So then
Gordon
it's
Bombay.
like now, and he dies in a brutal way. Like they show a lot more of it than you would think for a PG-13 movie.
It goes into his face. There's no blood, but I mean, I remember that's cool. They kill them all.
Yeah, they do a great job with that, and I wish too that I kind of wish that his team were more prominent people. Like I didn't know like the girl that played Anna and like a lot of these other people on the team. I'm just like, oh, I don't know who you are, so you dying doesn't really seem like a big deal. Versus when it's like when John Voight dies in the beginning or dies, where I'm like, holy shit,
sure.
I think that would have been cool to get more of that element, but yeah,
I can't fight you. But the point was though, is like they're setting up the characters. We're like, oh, this is and then they just kill them off, and like,
yeah.
Like who's safe?
Yeah, I agree. And it's all so good. I'm just I'm like I noticed that thing where I'm like it would have been more effective for me had it been people I actually cared about, but. I like the paranoia and espionage aspect of the first Mission Impossible the most.
I love the use. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the biggest De Palma fan. I respect him. People love him. I think he's fine. I like the use of POV though in this movie a lot. Like I was using the example of the gum scene, but that's not the POV. But like when he comes in to the party and the girl greets the senator's POV, or when the guy lights the match and the car comes and they go straight in the car, like that kind of stuff is interesting. It makes the series, makes this part of the series super unique because like I said, it doesn't fit at all, though I would argue that you could see where 3 kind of takes this and tries to start the beginning of the series that we know is the argument I've always made. Yep.
I could absolutely see that. So just as a bit of a reminder, what is your final ranking for the series?
Okay, number 7, Mission Impossible 2. Number 6, Fallout. Number 5, Rogue Nation. Number 4, Ghost Protocol. Number 3, Dead Reckoning. Though 4 and 3 might switch depending. I don't know. I love Dead Reckoning, but I just saw it. Yeah. And I love Ghost Protocol, but I've had a lot of time to think about Ghost Protocol, so we'll say that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 4, Ghost Protocol. 3, Dead Reckoning. 2, Mission Impossible 3, because it's amazing. And of course, a bunch of ants. Number 1 is the classic Mission Impossible. What about you?
So I've got number 7, Mission Impossible 2, number 6, Mission Impossible 3, number 5, Mission Impossible, number 4, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and number 3, Rogue Nation, number 2, Ghost Protocol, and number 1, Fallout. And I should say too, because we didn't discuss this, I hate the name Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I don't know if it's just because of the fact that I'm a George Romero Land of the Dead guy, that was like Dead Reckoning was the original title for Land of the Dead. And so I always, when I see that, I'm always just like, Dead Reckoning. But then I just don't think it worked. Call it Sevastopol. There's like so many things where I'm like, I just don't think. And also too, Part 1. Do we need the Part 1? Just call it like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, and then call whatever the next movie is Mission Impossible something else. Because like so many of these films are sequel, like Rogue Nation is essentially a part 1 to Fallout.
Yeah.
You could say the same with 3 and 4. Like there's just these you could pair these films where they could be a two-parter that then they're not labeled two-parter. So why label that? Especially because this is a completed story. This isn't like going to see Across the Spider-Verse where you literally get half a narrative where the movie just fucking ends. We're like, wait, what? What? We get a full narrative.
It completes the story as in like, now they have what they need, so they're going to go get the thing. It still continues, but I mean, I don't disagree.
All right. Well, I feel like we've pretty much done it. This is going to be a beastly video. So thank you so much for joining me, Lance. And we'll have to do a follow-up in 4 years when Dead Reckoning 2 comes out.
I'm excited. I'm excited, but I'm also sad because it's going to take that long. That I'll be a different person, more gray in the beard.
All right. I think that's really all. Thank you, Lance, for joining me. And take it easy.
Welcome to the end screen. Because we have our most popular videos up here, our latest videos over here, our modern reviews up here, and of course, the subscribe button right here, guys. Every little bit counts, and we do appreciate the support. That's kind of hot.